Y'all, we're talking dogs that are going to exceed expectations. It's like when you take a family trip somewhere and they say you'll regret every single and you say, no, we won't. We're going to crush that family vacation. We're going to own it and we're going to come back better as a family. We're talking exceeding expectations. And that's what we're going to talk about for the dogs in this coming draft next on Locked On Bulldogs.
You are Locked On Bulldogs, your daily podcast on the Georgia Bulldogs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Locked On Bulldogs podcast. He is Clint. I am Daniel. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. More on them momentarily. Back together again, Clint. Had some time away. Appreciate you holding down the fort. Appreciate all of our listeners. But it's good to be back.
It's good to have you back.
Good to be back on the
speak
mics.
For all the fans when they say, and we say collectively, we suck when we do solo podcasts, Daniel.
Listen, it's not how you and I excel. There are some great hosts of Locked On podcasts that record solo episodes every day, and to be God's honest truth, I have no idea how they do it.
I salute all of you
whatsoever. It is not what we're cut out for.
No,
we're better together, and so that's how we like it. That's how it is. We're talking dogs going to the NFL. It's obviously Super Bowl season these days. Niners. I'm not allowed to say that the words Super Bowl, so we've already been canceled by.
Well, I think what you meant to say was a bowl that is in fact super.
It's the biggest of the games. Of all the games, this one
ask them to take two smaller ones and put them together in a bigger one.
Mm-hmm. Grande Bolo is how it works. It's that tie that they wear in Texas, only it's a larger size. Horns down to you. By the way, we're going to do a whole episode on how absolutely pathetic Texas fans are. Like, listen to me, Texas fans.
Please.
You are a joke. Your whole fan base is a joke, and you're not going to last 10 minutes in this conference.
The analogy we give of the guy at the bar who talks a big game and no one's scared of you, that's you. You're that guy.
And your name's Matthew.
Ooh.
And you can't take it. You're not going to fare well in this conference.
No, you're not.
We're talking about people who are going to fare well in the NFL draft, though,
yes.
Clint. And last week you talked about some first rounders, some Georgia Bulldogs.
Mims.
Yeah, that's a first rounder if I've ever heard one.
100%. Talked about Brock Bowers.
He's a lock for a top 10 pick.
Kamari Lassiter.
Kamari Lassiter is going to be fantastic in the National Football League. But let's talk about some guys that maybe aren't being projected in the first round that are going to exceed expectations. Now, this happens every year. Georgia Bulldogs get drafted. They slip on down draft boards, and we get on this podcast and say, don't sleep on. There's a
Chargers tackle who is a bona fide stud.
Don't sleep on Jamari Sawyer. Don't sleep on James Cook. These are the things we say on this podcast. And lo and behold, a lot of times we are correct.
That's right.
So let's do that again, Clint.
Okay.
We got 3 names for the people. Who do you want to start with today that's going to exceed the draft level at which they will be taken?
Now, these 3 gentlemen, I could start with any one of them and then add on top of it. Wouldn't shock me if he turned all pro in 3-4 years. All these guys, I'm saying.
That's all 3 of these guys.
Okay. But I'm going to start with your favorite. I'm going to pitch you a softball, Daniel.
Okay.
Your player on this team who you're going to be following the most in the draft and with an NFL team, because he turned it on late, he got healthy, and he showed us he was not like other running backs that we have seen in a very long time at UGA, and that's Kendall Milton.
Let me just sum it up in one phrase with Kendall Milton.
Okay.
And that is tread on the tires, Clint.
Mm-hmm.
Georgia's loss is an NFL team's gain with
That's
Kendall
exactly right.
Milton. With running backs particularly, and it's a different threshold with each one of them.
That's right.
Right? Some running backs have a greater threshold, like a la Derrick Henry, but eventually Father Time comes calling to every running back, a la Derrick Henry. And so you're able to see that the more the less wear and tear you get in college, the more likely you are, which is why guys like Zamir White and James Cook go to the NFL, and they split carries at the University of Georgia. And both of them are carrying NFL offenses now in the league. It's not a matter of talent, it's a matter of wear and tear on a running back. Because Kendall Milton has sustained several injuries throughout his Georgia career, because he hasn't necessarily had the playing time that other backs have, that means he hasn't taken the abuse that other backs have. And so he comes into the league at an advantage. But Clint, it's not just that. It's the physical abilities of this guy that leap off the page that make you go, that's an NFL running back right now.
To every single thing about him. The thing in the NFL, it used to be that you can get away, I think, as we've seen the reemergence of a power running game. Look at the Lions and the 49ers.
Hello.
The Lions had the first time 10 touchdowns, 1,000-yard backs, 2 of them in the same offense.
Yeah, I mean, they
it
took a Georgia Tech running back and took them all the way to the NFC Championship game.
Ravens, incredible run game. I know Lamar Jackson. I know they lost, but incredible run game. Even if you look at the Chiefs said, well, screw it. We're going to throw all the wide receivers out the door. We're going to keep a fantastic quarterback, but we're going to have an incredible run game with Pacheco.
Pacheco carried them.
He carried them.
Yeah.
Like the average yards per carry. So if you're an NFL team and you're saying to yourself, yeah, we need a Jared, we don't have a Patrick Mahomes because they don't grow on trees, but we had a Jared Goff. Why don't we go ahead and get a Kendall Milton, partner him with a stout offensive line and see what's going to happen? I think Kendall Milton, the wear on the tread. I think you said that perfectly well. Again, Cook is going to have some problems because now he is the featured back in Buffalo, and all running backs that have that, Henry being the most recent example, go quick. So I hope Buffalo, you get somebody else back there to split carries with him because I want to see him.
Yeah, because Nick Chubbs don't grow on trees. Like they're not waltzing through the door. Kendall Milton, though, the speed, the acceleration, the burst, and the body, he's got it all for an NFL back. He can take the contact. He can run through the contact. He can deliver the contact. He is everything that you want. We thought we were going to see it in his Georgia career. We started to see it at the end of last season.
Yes.
Again, our loss, some NFL teams gain. We got 2 more names that we're going to get to, but first, want to let you know about these.
And these are eBay Motors, ebaymotors.com. The right parts, the right fit, the right price. eBay Guarantee Fit is available for U.S. customers. And here's the deal. You're going to go over to ebaymotors.com.
Okay.
You're going to put in your
I'm going to do this as you talk me through it.
Do your make, your make,
okay, got that.
Your model.
Okay, I'm there.
Your year of vehicle.
All right, I'll have to think about it first. Yeah, okay. Yep.
Okay,
it's
you
always
got it. Put it all
2.
in.
I can almost I'm always between 2 years.
And then what you're going to do is you're going to peruse either maybe some new tires, since you don't have the tread and wear and tear, since you're not killing
you lack a little tread on the tire.
You need some new tires, or you need
new
hubcaps. Many of us do. That's where eBay Motors comes into place. The right part, the right fit, the right price every single time. And if you don't get the right part, eBay is going to make it right. They're going to get a refund to you. They're going to get a guaranteed part to you. Peruse it online with complete confidence that you will have the right part, the right fit, the right price. ebaymotors.com. Daniel, we have 2 other names. Let's begin with, I think, a guy who realistically might come back into the first round if somebody falls in love and trade up for him.
Not to, I'll tell you that right now.
Because I think as we watched more film, as we watched more games, if we hear more draft analysts all over the place talk about Javon Bullard, my gosh, What do you need more to see of a today NFL safety than Javon Bullard? You want him to come up and fill the alley against an aforementioned guy like Cook, Zeus, or Kendall Milton? He can do that, and he's not scared.
Sure.
Do you need him to cover a slot, a tight end, have size, speed, intelligence, leadership ability, and experience? I've listed everything you're looking for in today's slot corner or safety, drop down the box, when you have a heavy set, when they want to run, as well as take the seam against a tight end. Javon Bullard might find his way being a team falling in love with him, trading back into the first round to get him. I don't know if that's going to happen because you never know what draft day drama brings. But right now, he has not looked to be in the first round, that's all I need to know to say he's going to exceed expectations. He's outside the first round. Okay. He's going to be better than safeties drafted in the first round.
He's a first round talent. Yeah, absolutely. Javon Bullard is the kind of guy that, and don't take this the wrong way, but Javon Bullard is the kind of guy that I don't know how he's going to grade out on all the dumb draft measurables, right? Like, I don't know what Javon Bullard's going to do on the bench. Like, I don't know what Javon Bullard's 3-cone time is going to be.
No clue.
But if you were to draft football players, and this is insane. This is wild. Now, don't worry. Now, let me finish before you start arguing. Okay. If you were to draft football players based purely, I'm talking 100% of your research was done by watching them play football. What? I know.
Daniel, that's not how. It's almost like saying I should date somebody based upon the chemistry and reaction and fluidity in which her and I may find each other attractive and lovely and good-natured, instead of random things like what month she was born and what star was floating upon her head when she was born.
Now here we've offended a new demographic of people on the podcast. I think that's the first time we've ever offended the horoscope crowd specifically on the podcast. And to be honest with you, I don't think they saw it coming. I know I didn't see it coming. It was like a right hook out of nowhere. Imagine if you just watched football and then you said, which safety do I want to take to make my team better? You go straight to Javon Bullard. Okay. And that's the kind of, that's why you look at some of these guys and you say, like, he's just a good football player. Now, does he have the measurables? Does he have the wingspan? Does he have I don't know if he has any of that. To be honest, I've never cared how tall he was. Like what the span of his shoulders was. Like, I've never cared about his 40-yard dash time. Do you know what I cared about?
What's that?
I cared about one of the best receivers in all of college football catching a pass in the back of the end zone in the biggest moment, in the biggest game of the season, and Javon Bullard's 40-yard dash time was fast enough to get him to that ball in order to deliver an absolute bone-crushing hit to save a season. That was a good enough measurable for me, Clint.
By the way, we need to start that whenever we do horns down, we'll have a trigger warning for Texas fans. Whenever we talk about Javon Bullard, we'll have a trigger warning for Ohio State fans.
Well, I think Ohio State fans and the horoscope fans are the same people. I think the Venn diagram is just a big Oregon O. That's what we're looking at.
Hot dish and horoscopes and Ohio State fans. These things all go together. No, Javon Bullard, if you're looking for a team, and I know that we're coming off Detroit just losing to the Niners in the NFC Championship game, and the thing that a coach like Dan Campbell is the type of dude who just says
he's got Javon Bullard written all over him.
Because if you looked, remember draft day, Daniel? Do you remember? Think back to draft day.
100%.
The Lions were told to lose the draft. They reached on players. Who's this linebacker they took? The corner, this. Oh my gosh, the Lions don't know what they're doing. First year, Dan Campbell has no clue. Oh, wait. They actually just drafted dudes that can play.
Dan Campbell's going to draft Dallas Turner and Javon Bullard. You can almost take it to the bank. You could just almost take it to the bank. That's the kind of guy he wants on his team. And I'm not saying Javon Bullard's a dirty player, because Dallas Turner is a dirty player.
Correct.
But they're just football play. Like, these are just football play and football players. And that's
it.
Yeah. So Javon Bullard's going to outperform a lot of teams' expectations of him on draft day. We got one more name, and I think we might have saved the most underrated Georgia prospect for last, and we'll get to it right after this.
Daniel.
I
want to preemptively tell you, and this I'm reading, so just so you know, don't yell at me when I say this.
Go ahead and read it.
Happy Super Bowl to all of you who celebrate from FanDuel, America's #1 sports book.
FanDuel got that big money. They say Super Bowl.
If you're like me, Super Bowl Sunday is all about scoring the best seats on the couch, grabbing your favorite football snacks, and placing super bets.
So many snacks, so many bets. The prop bets alone that are about to come out. It's just you love to see it.
We do love to see it because we will bet all of them. There is not a prop bet that I will not actually look at.
I get a piece of. One of the sides is going to hit, Clint. It's not.
Do you understand how betting works in the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
Okay. FanDuel has so many ways for you to end the season with a W or 2 or 3. Not only can you bet on who to win the Super Bowl 58, but FanDuel also has bets for which players will score a touchdown, how many points will be scored, and so much more. New customers join today get $200 in bonus bets. Hey-oh. If your first bet of $5 or more wins, just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more. FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
Clint, let's talk about one of my favorite Georgia Bulldogs of all time. I'm just gonna we're here. We're at the end of his illustrious career, and I am ready to say in front of God and everybody that Cedric Van Peebles is going to go down in my book as one of the most beloved and well thought of Georgia Bulldog football players of all time. Every time I see him play football, I fall in love all over again. And the only thing that makes me like him more is when off the field, he opens his mouth and says something, because everything he says is well thought out and demonstrates not only his intellect, but his character and who he is as a man. I love Cedric Van Peebles. He is going to slip in this draft.
Well, because he's a center, and those aren't highly looked upon in the NFL.
I'm sorry. Ask Patrick Mahomes.
Oh,
how highly thought of centers are in the NFL. I'm sorry. Ask the most highly paid players in the NFL who the most important player on their team is.
You mean the guy who's going to make the line calls and slide calls to protect the biggest asset that you have standing behind you, making more than the entire offense combined to get you to said Super Bowl? You mean that guy who has to have a brain and brawn and intellect and leadership ability to lead 4 other grown men
and be really good at football?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that guy. That's who I'm talking about. I'm talking about the non-Taylor Swift dating Kelce's of the world. That's who I'm talking about right now.
I just need it to be said. I just need it to be said. Okay.
Here we go.
Taylor Swift is going after seconds of the Kelce family. Okay. The better Kelce was already taken. And she wanted in the family tree, but she had to settle.
Cedric Van Peebles is going to make an NFL GM, an NFL franchise, very happy, because all he's going to do is nothing flashy.
No,
he's not going to be an all-pro his first year. He's not going to be this big splash. You're not going to. Let me say this. Next next January, when we talk about which teams won the NFL draft, it won't be because a team drafted Cedric Van Peebles. Like, that's not the payout that you're going to get from him. He's not going to make a big splash in the league. All he's going to do is come to work, do his job, put his head down, and absolutely make your organization better on every level from top to bottom. And he's going to continue to do that for 15 plus years. That's all you're going to get from him.
Now, this one, I can easily maybe try to ingratiate myself back into Atlanta Falcon fan.
There are no such things.
Well, I went a little scorched earth when you weren't here, Daniel, and I apologize.
I mean, no, you apologize to no one. There's no one to apologize to.
Mike Shanahan, the 49ers, have a bunch of skill players and really good X's and O's. I mean, real good X's and O's.
As long as you don't have a big lead in the Super Bowl. Don't get a big lead in that Super Bowl, Clint. Let me ask you that.
One Super Bowl appearance for the Niners and 0 wins, but lots of NFC Championship games. Now, he had a massive head start, and he coached himself against Dan Campbell. I'm on Dan Campbell because the dude went in 3 years from like no wins to 500 to all of a sudden NFC. And he did it not with incredible X's and O's, Daniel, but with a culture. He just, dudes love playing for him. He builds a incredible culture of buying in, going to work and grinding. Cedric Van Peebles, again, is the type of guy that brings a culture into your locker room, a culture into your offense. Ready-made that is going to elevate health and communication and incredible chemistry. And if you don't think those things matter, if you think this is somehow just, well, can he perform? A, you've never played sports in your entire life. B, you don't have eyeballs to see teams that have healthy front offices and healthy locker rooms. Those are the teams that are consistently there. Cedric Van Peebles adds to that. And again, like you said, oh yeah, he's a mauler, pushes large men around a great deal, and is going to be absolutely going to be a GM steal, a Sawyer type steal in this draft. He's going to fall maybe 3rd round, maybe 4th round. And all of a sudden he's going to slide his way into the starting position somewhere and solidify an offensive line.
I mean, do we need to hammer the point home, Clint? Do we need to prove the point how highly we think of Cedric Van Peebles? Let me just ask you. This is completely unscripted. We haven't talked about this at all. And
we usually talk about everything else in the podcast.
We do. We've had a thorough meeting with all of our. We did come into this podcast with all 3 names figured out. So I'm tip of the hat to us. And you just give me your honest answer.
Okay.
Who's a bigger loss for the University of Georgia Bulldogs this year? Brock Bowers or Cedric Van Peebles?
Cedric Van Peebles.
That's how we feel about him.
Okay.
It's not
now,
close.
Who's a better talent?
Brock Bowers.
Brock Bowers. Okay. Who's a bigger loss for next year's team?
Cedric Van Peebles. By a mile, guys.
It's not even close, particularly.
By a mile. He brings something tangible and intangible to an organization that Georgia is going to greatly miss next year, that Carson Beck is going to greatly miss next year.
Okay.
That now all of a sudden the continuity of that offensive line is going to be. See how I brought it home? And that made you grab the bucket. Just like you with the horoscopers, I hit you with the right hook out of nowhere. You had no idea it was coming, and I got you doubled over the bucket.
You do
already.
You do. I'm now mad. I want you to leave again and go back on vacation because that was dirty.
We out.
Okay.
Out.
Hey,
3 Bulldogs that are gonna outperform their draft stock. Right. We gave them to you. Let us know what you think in the comments. Thanks to all of you who make these episodes so fun to record. The 199, we love you guys. Send us an email, lockedonbulldogs@gmail.com, and let us know what you want us to talk about this off season. And we'll be back. We got more football stuff to talk about. We got more Georgia basketball stuff to talk about.
Yeah, we do.
And
we're making the tournament.
We got plenty to say. This Georgia basketball team is going to make the NCAA tournament. Prepare yourselves both mentally and physically.
We said what we said.
It's happening. It's going to happen. This has been Locked On Bulldogs. He is Clint. I am Daniel, and we will see you guys next time.
See you.